Good evening, Mr. Lookman.
Hi.
Could you please summarize what you did in your activity?
So basically, I did this thing called Youth Council. So I volunteered at my local community center, Trout Lake Community Center, and it's well, as the name would imply, it's a council of youth, and we basically were in charge of running activities at the community center, like fundraisers and special events for holidays, and we're also in charge of doing organizing community cleanups and initiatives throughout the community. And so, yeah, there's about 70 of us, and my friend Harserman did it with me as well. And yeah, so there's committees in there, so we're in charge of, some people are in charge of advertising and promoting. Some people would be in charge of getting grants. Some would be in charge of decorating. There's all these different committees, and then there was just the council as a whole as well. And in addition to helping out, we also got to do a bunch of cool workshops and educational things. So sometimes the police officers would come in and they give us a little talking to, not in trouble, but a little talking to, and sometimes we'd have other volunteer groups come in to talk to us about what they do. So yeah, that's a brief summary.
Thank you. Could you describe a moment from your experience that also demonstrates a valuable learning opportunity for yourself?
Well, I don't know. The whole thing was pretty cool for learning. It was interesting because I was part of a committee, and so I was in part of a part of a committee. So that was that was a learning experience because I had to work with a bunch of other people that I didn't go to school with, except Harserman. But I had to work with a bunch of people I didn't go to school with, and I really didn't know that well, and we didn't share a lot in common, so it wasn't we were best friends working together. So that was interesting because I am good at working with people, but I don't know, that was interesting. That helped me realize that there's also something I didn't enjoy too much, so there's interest in trying to work with people that I don't necessarily like that much, doing something that I don't like that much. So that was kind of interesting. I learned that it might not necessarily be my favorite thing to do.
Would you say that this experience has helped you undertake new challenges and plan and initiate activities? And if so, could you speak on that for a bit?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it definitely helped me do that. So, as I said, being part of the council, you have to plan and initiate activities. So, we organized some stuff around Halloween. We organized haunted house and all these different activities, in the big gymnasium at the community center. We also organized there's a fall harvest dinner, and we organized a Hanukkah thing, and I was running a workshop doing arts and crafts. So I had to plan those activities out and plan all the stations, plan what we were going to need, when we're going to need it, who we're going to need to help us run the event. And obviously we also had to initiate it because we had to be there, we had to do it, we had to get it going. And so yeah, that's yeah.
Thank you. Could you explain, please, what you hope to accomplish prior to engaging in your activity, and discuss whether or not you were successful in accomplishing this goal?
Well, okay, so my goal, I wasn't really sure what my goal was because I wasn't entirely sure what youth council was when I joined. And my dad was friends with the guy who was in charge of the youth at the community center. He took care of all that stuff. So he just said, "Oh, it's a good opportunity to get some volunteering in because I know you have to do that for school." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll come check it out." And then I don't know. I just learned that we just did a bunch of community stuff. So I didn't have any. I didn't really know exactly what my goals were. But then eventually I'm like, well, my goals are I want to just get involved with as many activities as I can. So I ended up taking part in 6 activities over the course of the couple months I was there, and there was around an activity a month, so I got almost all the activities, I took part in them, and so my goal was just to get into as many as I could, and I did achieve that. I did quite a few, and so did my friend.
Were there any challenges or difficulties that you encountered?
Yes. Every Friday we had to meet. I can't remember if it was I think it was an hour. It was either an hour and a half, or 2 hours. I think sometimes it changed depending on if we needed to get extra stuff done. But it wasn't challenging for me to go there because it's really close to my school, so it wasn't challenging for me to get to get there. That wasn't the time commitment. Wasn't the problem. It was really boring in those weekly meetings we had. It was and it felt like we weren't getting a lot done other than when we were specifically planning for activities or actually running them. That part was really fun. But one of the challenges was just finding a way to stay enjoying it. I enjoyed doing the activities, but a lot of the time I felt like we weren't being very productive in a lot of the weekly meetings. So that was probably the challenge, trying to find a way to actually like enjoy it and not be like, oh, I'm not doing anything. So yeah, that's probably my biggest challenge.
How did you overcome this challenge?
Oh, I guess I overcame it by just forcing myself to keep going, and I guess obviously the challenge was still there. It never disappeared. It was still boring quite a lot of the time in our weekly meetings, but I overcame it by just, when I went there, I'm like, okay, well, I would talk to the person who ran it and be like, well, can we do this? Maybe can we get a couple hours to work on doing this or preparing for that, or planning. And so I guess that's how I overcame the difficulty. Yeah.
Was there anything that you learned about yourself from your experience in this activity?
I learned that I was surprisingly able to, like in school, a lot of the time I'm known for talking a lot and being fairly rambunctious, and it was kind of interesting because when I was there, I was always I wasn't telling people to be quiet, but I was always one of the people who was fairly quiet compared to the rest. When there's 70 of us, I was among like the 10 or 15 that were the most quiet and most reserved. When it was time to be, when it wasn't, when it was time to have fun and time to do the activities and time to have time to be talking loud and time to be being enthusiastic and helping with when we were running the activities, I was definitely all doing that. But when it was time to be quiet, I was surprised that I was one of the leaders in that sense, and it might also help because I was one of the older students, because it goes from grade 8 to grade 12. There's a few grade 8s, a few grade 9s, a bunch of grade 10s, and then it tapered off a couple grade 11s and a couple grade 12s near the end. I think I was one of 9 or 10 grade 12s. So yeah, so I think that kind of helped, and yeah.
How do you feel that others have benefited from your service?
Well, for example, we did tons of activities, but for one, we did community cleanups, and that was part of youth council, but it kind of wasn't at the same time. It was kind of a separate thing, but that's an example. We cleaned up the community, the park, so that that's obviously an example of that. But also we ran a lot of activities. So for instance, the fall harvest, and that was we made dinner. And we made all kinds of stuff, and we ran little games and dances and stuff. So we really, I think an example of us helping is, I don't know, we kind of were able to bring members of the community together, different ages, and we were able to bring them together, and they were able to have a good time from us. And a lot of the time, when there's kids, they get to learn a new skill, doing arts and crafts and stuff. Yeah.
If you were to do this again, would you make any changes, and why?
Well, I mean, it's hard. It would be hard to make changes because I'm not in charge of running it. But I don't know. I think if I was to do it again, I might take more of a leadership role. Right now, I was in a committee, but my committee sometimes didn't get a whole lot done, and in our meetings, I was just one of the other 70 people. So I didn't feel like I was really taking charge in a lot of things, except when we were actually running the activities. That part I really took charge. But other than that, I think I would try and take more charge. Try and maybe take a leadership position. I know at the beginning actually the guy who ran it told me to run for the president of the club, but I didn't, because I had other CAS activities to do that same day when I would have needed to do my speech and stuff. But and also I knew with the IB I'm really busy. But I don't know, if I was to do it again, I think I would try and take more of a leadership opportunity, because I think I'm fairly capable at doing that, and it would have been really interesting to see what I could do and grow from that experience of being in charge of 70 other youth and organizing community stuff.
How do you feel you can apply what you've learned from this experience in other life situations?
Well, I think the commitment's a big one, because like I said, I had to go every single week for 6 months. Obviously not on the school holidays, so on Christmas break we didn't go and stuff. But I think having a time commitment, and even if I had other stuff to do, I'd always find a way to make sure I had to do that. I think the one time I missed it, I was in Quebec, but apart from that, I never really missed a weekly meeting. So I don't know, I found I think that was the most useful skill that I learned that I can apply to other things in life, is the time commitment. And again, it wasn't something I always enjoyed a lot, so being able to have a time commitment for something that I'm not particularly fond of all the time was a big thing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lookman.
Thank you.